Welcome back. It's the Jeremy Mills Podcast. We are live from the crossover. This episode is brought to you by Loverovich Orthodontics. They're on Sandpoint Way in Seattle. They helped me achieve the confident smile you see today. So if someone you know may be interested in correcting a smile, visit loveortho.com or give them a call, 206-525-7000. My guest today, returning from BallDontStop, Ekam Nagra. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thank you for having me again.
It's good to have you back. I can't believe it was just a year ago.
I know, it's crazy how time has been flying these past couple of years. You know, we were just talking about how fast the world moves in this 24/7 news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like just yesterday I was sitting here. I know.
There's always something going on.
Always.
You're never just bored. Like
Never. There's no such
going
thing
on right now.
No such thing anymore.
Especially as a media creator too.
Big time, man. Like our world moves so ridiculously fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're running a race.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit of a breather, get a water break, and you're back at it.
And it's like, yeah, and just there's so much out there too.
So
having
much.
a take that's not already oversaturated.
That's what I'm saying.
While still being honest.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lucky in a sense that I have a unique perspective to begin with compared to the rest of the people that are doing something that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like, you know, it's natural for me to have that's not saturated, have a perspective that's not saturated, because I just see the game a whole different way, I feel like.
How long did that take, do you think? Because was it always like that?
You know what? That was built up from me just playing the game as a child. I feel like I kind of see it from a player's perspective, and that just comes back to literally, like people always tell me, where did this mind and this take and all these things come from? I tell them I came from me playing on my driveway, working on a certain move 150 times before I get it right, knowing that there's going to be times and days where I miss it. You know, obviously I'm not an NBA player at all or a college, but you still have that same frequency, right? Mm-hmm. You're still on that same kind of, you know, frequency in terms of how you consume the game and how you see it. You see the intricacies of the game in a whole different way. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And I can always see it when I see certain NBA players that are in the industry that are doing media now, and they're like, wow, like, we don't know how you get it and you didn't play in the NBA. I'm like, I didn't play in the NBA, but I still played the game enough to know, right?
Right. Is that one of those people, Gilbert Arenas?
Yeah.
I always see you guys interacting.
Yep. Gilbert Arenas is one of those guys, and he's a guy that, like, we see the game very similarly all the way because he was a very individual player, and he openly says it, you know. So Gilbert is one of those guys, like, we interact and we exchange exchange comments and all these things. Mm-hmm. We have a conversation on every single topic in the league and take on everything. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree.
That's pretty cool. I know you're probably too close to it to, you know, enjoy it.
That's it.
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm consumed right in it. I don't get to take a step back and say, wow, this is Gilbert Arenas, a guy that I looked up to. Yeah. That is talking about the game on the same level as me, basically. So it's crazy, man. Yeah. That's
awesome. For the people who don't know, you run BallDontStop, a major Instagram, major Twitter, major website for basketball, just in general. You do your podcast on Instagram TV, which is always interesting. Yeah. The comments, I just can't believe you have the energy to deal with all of those comments, man.
It's a part of the game, you know, and it's the way it is for me now. When like I said, when you see the game from my perspective, a lot of people don't even understand what I'm saying. They can't. I accepted a long time ago that, and I don't even want to sound arrogant when I say this, but sometimes the perspective that I speak from is too, at times, basketball intellectual to where people aren't going to be able to consume it. And then a lot of times, you know how the internet is, it's a negative place now. It's pretty harsh. So, you know, I'm not expecting people to be my friend on there, you know, especially when they're coming at me the way I am, and sometimes I go right back at them. So I have fun with it, but it's a part of the game. I like it. I enjoy it. I love every second of it.
It doesn't ever affect, you know, not seriously, obviously, but your mental health a little bit one way or another.
No. I feel like I'm prepared for it. You know, I didn't get fed a silver spoon when I was a kid. You know, I was always getting yelled at by my mom or my dad. So, you know, I don't think some comments on the internet going to hurt me. I like it. I think it makes me stronger. Yeah.
It's awesome. I see also another player, Kevin Durant, that follows you and interacts with you a lot. What maybe a conversation you guys have had or a topic you guys have talked about?
That's my guy. He's the guy that he's one superstar that me and him, we have so many conversations about the game and what's happening and all these things. But, you know, I'll always ride for that guy because I know he's one of the coolest dudes in the world, just out of basketball, period. And then in terms of the game, I think me and him can have days where we talk about the game for 4 or 5 straight hours, on and off. Wow. He loves the sport. He has agreements with me on a lot of things that I say. He disagrees. He tells me why he disagrees. And then I shut up because he's Kevin Durant. And he sees the game in a whole different – that's one – to me, he's a top 5, top 10 player ever. And KD is a real basketball expert. That's where it stops for me. And even with Gilbert, these are guys that no matter what we say about them, no matter what any media member or whatever narrative is created about them, they are the true professors and the masters of the sport because they've done it for so long. They've done it at such a high level. And I'm talking about the practices, the days where you're sore, the days where your ankle hurts and you got to go get up and go put up 45 and you got to make your reads and adjustments. And they do that. We just talk about it. So when a guy like that sees things that I see, but then he says, no, this was like this, I'm like, it's an honor to even have this conversation with you, you know? So a very, very, very intelligent, misunderstood human, and probably the coolest guy at that level of stardom that I've met in my life in anything. Oh. Yeah.
Definitely a dream podcast guest. It's
oh yeah, it'll happen.
Just watching him play is the most enjoyable thing.
Yeah. He's like a kid, man, that's just out there competing and having fun, loving the game. And he really, for as much hate that he gets for certain things and you know, it's ridiculous, but he never let that joy for the game and the love for the game die out.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in a fantasy world, that would be everyone. But in a real life world where this is your job and he's been having to do it for, you know, having to do
12,
it.
13 years,
Yeah. Eventually it's going to test.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Anyone's love for the game.
Exactly. And he loves it. And he literally breeds basketball.
Wow.
He's like Jamal in a way.
Wow. What are your most memorable interviews, do you think, and why?
I've had some great ones, but my 2 most memorable are with Allen Iverson, number 1, and because he was my favorite player, and then with Jamal. Because with Jamal, it was right here actually 4 years ago, and he literally opened up to us about everything, and it didn't stop. Like, we just kept going and going and going. And he was, again, another guy that was speaking on it from the love aspect. We were all fans in that moment. He was talking about the history of the game, things that he's been through, moments that he's had in the league. And that's when we first clicked, like, wow, like, we literally speak the same language on the sport. And that was so cool. It was like, that for me was like, wow, like, this is the lane that I was given, and there's a reason for it. And I have one of the greats in front of me. And then Allen Iverson, the same thing. When you grow up idolizing a guy, practicing a guy's moves, buying their merchandise, man, that's just a whole different world. Yeah, so we were in New York. His movie was coming out, the Iverson documentary, and we were covering that, and we were providing content, articles, all these things, you know, the whole week. And that final week before the movie came out, the final weekend, I got to sit down with him and speak to him for like half an hour. So, I mean, to think about that, it's a dream come true, man. Yeah, that for me was like, okay, I'm good now. Like, whatever happens from here on out, I'm good.
Yeah, I know that. I shouldn't know that feeling, but I kind of just a little bit. You know?
Get it, right?
Yeah, getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Being like, if nothing else ever happens, I can look back on this.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I really did that.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned most as an interviewer from those interviews?
The best thing that I learned is just be yourself, obviously, and it's cliche to say that, but when these guys, when they can see it and they can sense it, they're very, very smart people, and you know, they're sophisticated, and they can pick up on that energy right away. And if you come at them with positive energy and love for the game, and you come at them with that, you know, authenticity and just that excitement, and just that fandom, and you keep that alive and keep that excitement alive, it goes places. And it'll be a free-flowing, fun, everything will just kind of flow. Everything will flow. So now, even now, we're going to go on a little podcast tour with certain players, and I'm literally just going to walk in and we're going to take it from there because the love for the game is the foundation of it. Mm-hmm. So when you're not trying to shovel out answers and nitpick and try to get them to say something silly, I'm just not that type of human to begin with. And I know you're not either. But there's people out there that get opportunities like that and they ruin them. And they ruin them by being, disrespectful in a way and sneaky and things like that. But those guys will pick up on that right away and they're annoyed halfway through. So I've seen it enough, but just be yourself and love the game and express that love for the game and they'll pick up on it and it'll flow.
It's nice to hear because I'm sure you are feeling the same pressure I do of getting clicks, getting likes, everything like that, which would lead some people to doing stuff like that, trying to bait people into stuff.
Big time, man.
It's not the personality.
That's what I'm saying. And you're not. And I think the beautiful thing with you is when something is going to go viral or when something is going to go, expand or grow or something, it's going to be something organic. It's going to be something that you can look back on and be proud of. And no one's going to have a negative reaction to it in terms of how you did it. That's the best feeling. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
What's the future for your platform?
It's just the same. We want to grow the game every day, and we want to provide that analysis and that viewpoint on the game that's missing. That, like I said, the intricacies of the sport. There's so much of a who, what, when, where, why, how that is not being addressed in basketball. And there's so much of there is so much of a gray area, and there's so much of a intellectual portion of the game that is not even being addressed. And I literally feel like we're the only ones providing that. Outside of platforms that have players on the platforms breaking the game down, I think we're the only ones doing it, and I think I'm the only one technically capable of doing it because I see all these other people. It's the same narrative, same stats, same style, and same approach. For me, it's just I see the game from a player's perspective, and it's just to keep giving fans fun content and giving our take on it, but also growing the game and providing youth and providing people that don't know as much or people that don't see that perspective, giving them a new perspective. I'm not saying agree with everything I'm saying. I'm not saying my way is the end-all, be-all, and this is it. But I'm saying this is a thing that you need to look at and understand and consume and realize. So that's how I see it. And just to keep pushing that and keep growing the game and keep providing fun content and celebrating the history of the game, celebrating the greats in our game, and celebrating and not being hateful towards any player, Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing for me.
Keep it going, man. It's enjoyable for me as a basketball fan.
Thank you.
It's a freight train. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and rolling.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Talk a little NBA and then get you out of here. Appreciate your time coming to the crossover.
Always, man. Always.
Making the trip down.
Yeah.
Speaking of making the trip down, as a Canadian,
mm-hmm.
What did last season mean to you and the country of Canada overall?
It was huge. That was like a thing that we never thought growing up that we'd ever see. We thought we were just a team we thought we were a country that got to kind of be a part of basketball, and that was it. And,
6 years of the
Grizzlies. 6 years of the Grizzlies, and then you're looking around like, are the Raptors going to leave? As a kid, that's what you think, right? But we thought that basketball was just a thing that we kind of got to be a part of with the Raptors. And, it was a little bit of a treat for us. And when they started doing good, they started getting to the second round. It was like, this is great. This is great for the country. I thought we were taking W's then. I thought that was a win for us. Just the fact that we had a team that got attention. We had All-Star Weekend. People and players were coming to Toronto, and they were excited about coming to Toronto in terms of playing there. Drake blew up and all these things, but this season right here was like a dream. And literally, we talking about it today. Like, who would have thought, and Canadians will know this, who would have thought over the last 15 years that the Raptors would even be in an NBA championship series, let alone win the whole thing? Like, it literally felt like a dream, and it was great. As a fan, it was great, and I thought from a business and a global perspective, like the whole world got to see the greatest country in the world on the biggest stage, in my opinion, right? And I think that was great. I loved it. I loved every second of it, and I told everyone, enjoy this no matter what Kawhi does. Yeah.
It was amazing to see. It was, and you set it up perfectly, no matter what Kawhi does.
Yeah.
So did you think he was going to leave?
Yeah. I told fans all year, I was like, he's probably not going to stay. You obviously hear things. I'm not even a sources type of guy at all. But I was like, I had a feeling that he would leave. But it had got to a point near the end there where I'm like, wow, like as a competitor, as a guy that won, as a guy that achieved the basketball dream and the pinnacle of the sport, like how do you turn away from, because that's a dream too, what he did.
Huge.
Huge. He had a country behind him.
That's a movie right there.
That is a movie. That is literally a movie. And I know this because we're on the other side of Canada, and we had people that never watched basketball talking about Kawhi Leonard. Think about that. And the only people those people know about is Michael Jordan and LeBron and the biggest names, you know. So he was in that group. Like, he was living a movie. And I had doubts, but I knew where his heart was before the season. I knew where his heart was, years before he actually asked for the trade pretty much. So I wasn't surprised, but I was grateful. I was like, this is great. This is a guy that led us to basketball glory, and the whole world got to see us because of it.
Now, what do Canadians feel? Maybe not you, but the overall country. Now that he's gone to...
I think Canadians are, for the most part, very grateful people. When someone doesn't disrespect them and goes out of their way to disrespect them and looks down on them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be thankful for that moment and thankful for what you gave them. I think when Kawhi comes back to Toronto, he's going to get a standing ovation. I think he's a legend in the country. I think, for the most part, Canadians are very grateful for the run that he gave us, and Canadians are very happy for what happened and the fact that we got to taste that. Not a lot of franchises get to do that if you look through the history of the game. Especially with the way the league is now, you always had the same 2 or 3 teams competing for a title. And out of nowhere, the Raptors got to live that. So, I'd be disappointed if Canada was disappointed. But, I have friends that are like, oh, Kawhi shouldn't have done that. I'm like, man, come on, shut up. Be grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. On to a different part of the NBA. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, a lot of these same teams are always in there.
Yeah.
It seems to be the duo era right now.
Mm-hmm. We just entered it, yep.
Now let's compare some of these duos. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
KD and Kyrie, or Steph and Clay. Obviously not this year, but
when KD gets back,
yep.
KD, Kyrie. That right there is the 2 most skilled players to me in the world. You got Kevin Durant, who I consider the best player in the world, hands down. You got Kyrie Irving, a guy that has proven outside of this season he had a poor playoff performance, but he's a champion, and Cavs don't win in 2016 if it isn't for Kyrie Irving doing what he did on that stage against those guys, against the Warriors. Those, to me, are 2 all-world talents. And you said Steph and Clay, right? Mm-hmm. Steph and Clay are great. Steph and Clay are a unique duo that changed the game and that changed the entire complexion of the sport with their outside shooting and the way they just changed the pace and the timing and everything of the game. But, I always look at it, that to me is a landslide on the fact that Kevin Durant can't be defended by any player in the world. And then you got Kyrie Irving, who is an ISO god in terms of you could put anyone on him and he's getting a shot off at least. Those 2 guys right there, man, no disrespect to Steph or Clay whatsoever. Both guys that changed the game, but they're a unique duo. And if you put them up against those 2, it's tough.
So you would pretty much pick KD and Kyrie over anyone?
I would pick KD and Kyrie over anyone pretty much. Wow. Yeah.
What about Kawhi and Paul George versus LeBron and AD? Battle of LA.
Ooh, that one's tough, man. I think, see, the thing is with Anthony Davis, I think the whole world's about to find out how good Anthony Davis really is on this stage now. He's quietly been doing everything that he's about to do. He's been doing it on the Pelicans for the last 6 or 7 years or whatever it is. And you know how the NBA is now. We don't pay attention to small markets the way we do to the big markets. And that's just the nature of the game. I think Anthony Davis is also all-world talent, a top 3 player in the world. But I gotta go Kawhi and PG on the fact that LeBron is exiting his prime right now, and it's gonna be a fresh in his prime Kawhi, a fresh in his prime Paul George up against as great as LeBron is. This is not peak LeBron James no more. I think everyone can agree it's not peak LeBron, and that kind of makes it a disadvantage because you got 2 guys at your position that have more juice in the tank than you. And all these guys are very equal, and it's always a toss-up. You can't go wrong with either. I always tell people that. But you got 2 guys that are defensively, they're dogs. Offensively, they can do whatever they want. They cannot be guarded. If they were in a 2-on-2, it'd be interesting because who's going to guard Anthony Davis? But if you compare duos, if you compare to the Clippers and the Lakers, man, I think you got two specimens in their prime in Paul George and Kawhi, and there's not a damn thing you can do about them on the defensive end, and they're going to lock you down, and they're going to play their ass off. It's going to be tough, but LeBron and AD is going to be a problem. I think they're going to be hard to stop, but it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out with LeBron and AD, how they play, what what kind of role LeBron takes, and does Anthony Davis lead the way? Does he take games over when it's time, or does LeBron, or do they take turns? So with PG and Kawhi, I know you could check up the ball, and you got a problem right there. LeBron and AD got some stuff to figure out.
It's a whole new NBA. It feels like there's so many things to be figured out. Yeah. And the one question I save for the end here, because I think you'll have an interesting opinion.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from Zion Williamson in his rookie campaign?
From Zion, I'm expecting him to be a glue guy for the Pelicans. And for some reason, people get offended by this, but his own GM, David Griffin, literally, I've been telling people, if Zion Williamson is a freakishly athletic version of a Draymond Green in terms of his role for the Pelicans, you got a very, very unique and special talent, and you got a guy that's going to help you compete and be competitive for 10 or 15 years. Because Zion Williamson landed in the perfect situation after that AD trade. I don't consider him a guy that you could give him the ball and say, go get us 25 and go hit the final 6 shots of this game and win us the game. But I consider him a guy that's going to be a problem in the open court. He's going to run. He's going to push the pace. He's going to block shots. He's going to be a highlight reel player. He's going to have a lot of eyes on your team. I think that he's going to be a guy that rebounds the ball, that defends guys, that makes that extra rotation quicker, and he does the little things that we don't see as much, right? And I think he's going to be a guy that can at times, run the offense as well. But I don't see Zion as a go-to guy and a takeover guy. But for this Pelicans team with Lonzo, with Ingram, a guy that's a scorer, a guy that I think is about to flourish in this situation, they've added pieces. They got Drew Holiday. I think it's a perfect fit for him. They got Josh Hart. I think he has the scorers around him. I think he has the playmakers around him. Now he can go be himself without much pressure. He can go be himself. It'd be foolish for people to expect Zion to go be a 25 and 10 type player in the league. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think he's going to be one of the most valuable pieces on a very competitive team, just like Draymond was for the Warriors. I think he's going to be that for the Pelicans for years to come.
Yeah, I don't see how people can think Draymond Green is an insult.
No, not at all.
Things that guy does on the basketball court, the impact he has, offense, defense.
Absolutely. And
how do you not see that?
That's what I'm saying. And the Warriors wouldn't be the same team without that type of – it's those little things that people don't see and pay attention to. So
it's like the offensive line in football.
Yep, exactly. You can't get it done without that. Mm-hmm. And Draymond got paid $100 million. He's a respected player. He's an all-star. And I'm saying he's a more athletic version of that. That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's scary. So it'll be fun. I hope he does well.
Yeah. It's Ball Don't Stop. It's Ekam Nagra.
Yeah.
We're here, Seattle, Washington. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. Always, man. I love it.
Follow Ball Don't Stop on Instagram, Twitter.
You keep doing your thing, man. You're growing the game out here in the Northwest. It's a very, very popular hoops market. Anytime you ask a player about Seattle, they know basketball culture is heavy here. And you're one of the guys that's actually pushing it the right way and keeping it going. That's inspirational, that grind and that focus and that passion for it. When that's the foundation, the sky's the limit. You just got to keep going.
That's huge coming from you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.
And, I'm sure this won't be the end.
No.
We'll just
we'll see. We'll link up again as always.
Awesome. Let's go enjoy some basketball.
Let's do it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.